Welcome back to the World Revolution News. My name is Emily Pankhurst and today is October the 7th, 2011. Originally this week's broadcast was going to be on Portugal and the recent uprising, in which over 130,000 marched in Lisbon and Porto last Saturday, to protest against austerity measures imposed under the terms of a European Union and IMF bailout. But instead we decided to do a follow-up on the spreading of the Occupy Wall Street protest that has grown into a nationwide movement in the United States. Thomas Jefferson has more details for us.
The Wall Street protest that was first reported here 2 weeks ago has now grown to new levels and spread to many other major cities. It has won the backing of AFL-CIO President Rich Trumka and national unions such as the United Steelworkers of America. Tens of thousands joined in the protest in New York on Wednesday. In a huge development that could give the protests added fuel, several of New York City's major union locals and community organizations also joined the protests. The recent protests also sparked nationwide campus walkouts on Wednesday in over 100 places. Some of the universities took part in the Occupy Colleges movement by urging students to walk out of their classes at noon. From New York to Hawaii, the wave spread rather quickly. More people are realizing that it's 99% versus 1%. Police brutality went to another level on Wednesday night in New York, as protesters received beatings after trying to push through a barricade. The Occupy Wall Street protests have resulted in approximately 1,000 arrests since their start. To underscore and publicize police brutality, more than 1,000 Wall Street protesters marched on police headquarters in Manhattan last Friday. One has to wonder if J.P. Morgan knew something might be brewing when they made the largest donation to the NYPD a few months back, to the tune of $4.6 million. Some politicians are taking sides. U.S. Representative Keith Ellison of Minnesota was one of the first politicians in the nation to express his support for Wall Street protesters on Tuesday. In a joint statement with his Congressional Progressive Caucus co-chair Representative Raul M. Grijalva, Ellison said he's been inspired by the growing protest movement. Their statement went as follows: "We share the anger and frustration of so many Americans who have seen the enormous toll that an unchecked Wall Street has taken on the overwhelming majority of Americans, while benefiting the super wealthy. We stand with the American people as they demand corporate accountability, and we support their use of peaceful means to improve America." End of statement. Mitt Romney called it class warfare, and he's right. Republican presidential hopeful and former Federal Reserve employee Herman Cain said, "Don't blame Wall Street, don't blame the big banks. If you don't have a job and you are not rich, blame yourself." The chiefs at the Federal Reserve felt the heat and tried to sympathize. Dallas Federal Reserve President Richard Fisher, when talking to a group of business people about the protest this week, said, "I am somewhat sympathetic. That will shock you. We have too many people out of work. We have a very uneven distribution of income. We have too many people out of work for too long. We have very frustrated people, and I can understand their frustration." End quote. When Ben Bernanke was recently asked about the Occupy Wall Street movement, he said of protesters, "On some level, I can't blame them." End quote. Even President Obama is trying to get on the right side of history. He said the protesters are expressing the frustrations of the American public yesterday. Obama then went on to say he understood the public's concerns about how the nation's financial system works, and said Americans see Wall Street as an example of the financial industry not always following the rules. Maybe he failed to realize his whole staff is made up of these examples of Wall Street gone wild. Not to mention Goldman Sachs employees who have contributed $994,795 to Obama's presidential bid, his second biggest funder. Over 30 people associated with the Obama administration have been linked to Goldman Sachs, just one of the too big to fails. University of Minnesota political scientist Professor Lawrence Jacobs described the banksters' attachment to the Obama administration. "Almost everything that the White House has done has been haunted by the personnel and the money of Goldman, as well as the suspicion that the White House, particularly early on, was pulling its punches out of deference to Goldman, and its war chest." End quote. Former Wisconsin Senator Russ Feingold has also endorsed the demonstration, saying that by the time the protests are over, that they will make the Tea Party look like a Tea Party. Karen Coughlin, a registered nurse, and the vice president of Massachusetts Nurses Association, who joined Occupy Boston, said that she doubts public opinion will turn against the protesters. "It's the Main Street people who get it, and it's the politicians and Wall Street who don't get it," she said. "They either don't see it, or choose not to see it." George Oldrow, 62, and a member of Local 2325 of the United Auto Workers, summed it up nicely when he said the following: "The great thing about Occupy Wall Street is that they have brought the focus of the entire country on the middle-class majority. We're in it together, and we're in it for the long haul." End quote. The U.S. media keeps asking what they are protesting for. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is asking, what took us so long to join them? Occupy Wall Street has now become Occupy America. Because more people are starting to realize that it's the United Banking Cartel versus us, not me versus you, for we are the many, and they are the few.
Have a good weekend, everyone, and thanks for watching History Unfold every Friday, here at the World Revolution News.